Kids' knees. We've all had them at some point in our life, except as we grow older, they start to move and transform into what we now know as kidneys. Just a little fun fact for you there. Have you ever wondered about just what happens in the Netherlands? Is it really all just windmills and bikes and bike mills? But those are all quite nice things for your country to be known for, so surely them of all people wouldn't be responsible for the most unethical and controversial game show in history. That's Japan's job. Like, honestly, I have no idea what's been going on in Japan, but they've always had the craziest game shows. Like, just look at this. I mean, just whose idea was this, and how did it even get made? That just might be exactly what the Netherlandese want you to think. As in 2007, a new game show was launched in the Netherlands called The Great Donor Show, or De Grote Donor Show. I honestly can't think of what their accent is off the top of my head, so that's the best we're gonna get. De Grote Donor Show. De Grote Donor Show. But basically, in this show, there were 25 contestants, all competing for the grand prize, which this lady already owns. And what would you expect this grand prize to be? Maybe a bunch of money, maybe a big mansion, or a really nice holiday? We could keep guessing like that for hours, because I honestly don't know how long it would take for anyone to guess her vital organs. And if that was actually one of your first guesses, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you just knew about this show before, instead of immediately assuming that you're a psychopath. But yeah, this woman is called Lisa, and she is terminally ill, meaning that she won't be needing her organs for very long, so why not just give them away as a prize? And all of the contestants are in need of a kidney transplant. And it's her job, along with the help from text messages coming in from the public, to decide which one of these contestants deserve her insides the most. Which is just the most dystopian game show I've ever heard of. Literally just watching people beg for an organ to keep them alive. And an interesting side note, in the same year that The Great Donor Show first aired, 2007, a movie also came out called Live, which is all about Eva Mendes starting a game show where all of the contestants play Russian roulette live on television. And I don't know what was happening in 2007, I was too busy playing The Incredibles on PS2, but apparently it was the year for unethical game show media. So if anybody can find a reason for why this has happened, please let me know. There has to be a link somewhere. But in the lead up for the show, it quickly started to become controversial, and of course it did, right? It's trivializing people fighting for their lives for the entertainment of old ladies sat at home. And to be fair, humanity has always done this. I mean, we had coliseums and stuff built specifically so we could watch people get torn apart by lions and rhinos and stuff. Do you guys think you ever would have gone to the Colosseum? Because whenever I ask that, a lot of people just immediately say no. I would never go to that. It's cruel to animals and it's evil to humans. It's the worst thing ever. And I agree. But back in the day, what else would you do? Your only two options really are going to the Colosseum, watching a bunch of mad stuff happen. You've never seen a rhino before. You've heard tales of this giant tank of a beast, and now you get the chance to go and watch it fight 10 dudes at once. Or you could sit and watch sand for 14 hours straight. That's all they could really do with their time. But back to what we're actually talking about. And the controversy around this show got so loud that the Prime Minister of the Netherlands at the time, Jan Peter surname, desperately tried to get the show pulled from air. He was against the show because he thought it would damage the reputation of the Netherlands as a whole, as a country, saying that he deeply regrets that BNN will broadcast The Great Donor Show on Friday evening. The controversial program does not benefit the image of the Netherlands abroad. We can profile ourselves in a better way. Which you can understand, really. I mean, going from the weed capital of the world to the land of organ auctioneers is a crazy switch up. But before I can explain exactly how insane this show is, I think we need a little bit of backstory to all of this. So this all started because of a guy called Bart De Graaf. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And now I'm just going to assume that you guys didn't grow up in the Netherlands between 1997 and 2002 and have no idea who this guy is. But it was during this time period where Bart started his own public broadcasting network called BNN, or Bart's News Network. And a bit more backstory on Bart himself. At the age of 9, he was involved in a car accident which led to him developing chronic kidney failure, which then led to Bart developing a growth disorder which gave him the appearance of a young boy for the rest of his life. So buying alcohol and stuff must have been a real piss take. But the shows he hosted through this network were mostly controversial. And one of these shows actually looks really fun. It's called Try Before You Die, where the presenters do a bunch of different things that they believe everybody should try before they die. Things like driving a Formula 1 car, bathing in a waterfall, riding a big roller coaster, putting your hand inside of a cow, feeling silicone boobs, dating a homeless guy, streak at the quarterfinals match at Wimbledon, and one time where Bart vandalized a petrol station or gas station, however you want to say it, throwing a brick at a window just to see what would happen. The police obviously arrived, but upon seeing Bart, they just could not get angry at him. And he did of course pay to have the window that he broke fixed, so he's a gentleman. So it's clear to see that this guy was huge in the Netherlands, identifiable on sight by everybody, has truly cemented a place in television history. However, when he started BNN, he got a donor kidney after being on the waiting list for years. And 2 years after receiving the kidney, his body started to reject it, and Bart unfortunately passed away on March 25th, 2002. Having your body reject an organ 2 years after it was implanted is insane to me. Like, it really took 2 years for the body to be like, wait, you're not supposed to be in here! But this obviously was a really big hit to everybody who loved watching the shows, everybody who worked on the shows with him, but it also really highlighted to a lot of people how big of a problem the transplant waiting list really is in the Netherlands. As a country that had one of the lowest donor rates in all of Europe, and where the mortality rate for people waiting for a transplant was 15 to 30%, which equates to around 200 people a year just waiting for a kidney, with people begging the politicians to actually do something about it, but they just didn't, which is such a surprise, right? So, now we have a broadcasting company that is huge in the Netherlands, that is known for controversial entertainment, who has just lost their leader to a very treatable condition that is being neglected in part by the politicians who aren't bringing attention to any kind of solution whatsoever. And the network felt that they had only one option, which was to take it upon themselves to raise awareness. And I'm sure that by now you're starting to see their thought process behind all of this. So now we fast forward 5 years after Bart's passing to 2007. You just finished watching Live, you're leaving the cinema like, wow, that movie really wasn't that good. But then you get a notification on your phone. It's BNN, which now stands for Bart's Never-Ending Network, has announced the Bart De Graaf Donor Evening. Sorry, I still don't know the accent. Oh wait, no, they've changed it to just The Great Donor Show. And word is spreading very quickly.
This is cynical exploitation.
Makers of Big Brother has done it again.
Unethical and tasteless.
The Big Donor Show that's raising all types of ethical questions.
Has reality TV gone too far?
This television show is exploiting people's desperation. Then we should be able to volunteer for the slave trade, or as long as we donate the money to charity.
Yeah, I still have no idea what her point is, but the controversy around the show is obviously understandable. I mean, I could still see the show existing even further into humanity's future, and just the concept of if they tried to do the show where it was just people who are on the waiting list for a kidney transplant coming up and telling their story, it would never bring in an audience. They had to trivialize it, and they had to turn it into a game with the public directly interacting with it through the text messages and everything, in order to get anybody to even look their way. Otherwise, nobody would have ever tuned in and listened in the first place. Even Children in Need bribes you with music and sketches and stuff in order to get you to watch the sad stories and donate money to them. It's the only way to get the general public looking and listening about certain issues. It just has to be a spectacle. And as horrific as this process seems to be, getting people up to tell their stories just hoping that they will win a kidney and effectively win life. They win the rest of their life. As truly horrible as it seems to be to do this on live television, this is literally what they have to do anyway all of the time. On sites like matchingdonor.com, where they do exactly this, just writing it down, and people come through, read through their stories, and decide who to give their kidney to. Except at least for this show, they didn't have to pay $295 in order... Jesus. Except this time they don't have to pay $295 in order to do it, because that's how much it costs to make an account on matchingdonor.com. But one of the people who donated their kidney through matchingdonor.com is called Tom Simon, and he has his own blog called The Kidney Chronicles, which is a great name, by the way. And when he was asked about what he thought about The Great Donor Show, he said this: "The game show thing has a certain perverse appeal to me. How many centipedes do you think I could have gotten, the person who he donated his kidney to eat on television for her to win my kidney? And this seems to be a reference to shows like Fear Factor, where people come up and eat bugs and do stupid stuff in order to win money. I've done a whole video on that as well, which I'm sure you'd enjoy, so please check that out after this one. Just finish this video first, yeah? But that's actually a really good point, because if people are willing to do everything you do in Fear Factor, again, check out my other video if you want more information on that. They tried to blend rats and make people eat it, but if people are willing to do all of that just for money, imagine what they would do for a life-saving organ. And you could debate that money is essentially a life-saving and necessary organ to live, meaning that those kinds of reality shows are no better and no different than making people compete for a kidney. But that might be a bit too metaphorical. But as much as the government tried to stop this show from airing, there was nothing legally that they could do to stop it. So on June 1st, 2007, a month and 4 days after live premiered starring Eva Mendes and David Krumholtz and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, The Great Donor Show was on. The show starts with the host explaining, "Today is Friday, a very special day in TV history, with something that's never been done, which hasn't gone unnoticed in Parliament, in Holland, and abroad." He also explains that there is a huge lack of donors in Holland and how 200 people die before they can receive a new kidney. Talking about how the number of adults refusing to donate had doubled and the average wait time for a kidney being 4.5 years. Encouraging the audience to donate and cut that waiting time in half. This is Lisa, who is terminally ill and willing to donate both of her kidneys in order to give someone else the life that she can't have. She has already whittled down the 25 possible kidney recipients down to 3 people: Esther Claire, Vincent, and Charlotte, all who have been waiting years already for a donation. And like we've said, all of the viewers can text in and give advice about who they believe the kidney should go to. And all of the income from these text messages went directly to the Dutch Kidney Foundation, which is great. Imagine not thinking that was a good idea. I don't know why we're giving so much money to those goddamn kidney foundations. If you want kidneys, just go to the playground. So with hearing the contestants' life stories and the difficulties they've faced, it got to the time for Lisa to eliminate one of the contestants, where she says it feels like playing God. Which she basically is, to be honest, and she chooses to eliminate Esther Claire, both figuratively and literally in this case, and she chose her because she already has a good life, which I guess makes it better to cut that life short. I mean, there's literally no way of making a good decision here. Like, that's the entire point of the show, to really highlight that we're being forced to make these kinds of decisions when if more people just donated, we simply wouldn't have to. So now it's just between 2 people, both waiting for the decision that will decide their fate and extend their lives. Everybody at home watching and waiting in this horrible limbo, or at least they would be if any of this was real. Wait a minute, I would like a timeout because I would like to tell everyone again why we're doing this. Well, this is because there is something terribly wrong with the organ donation. There are 1,400 people on the waiting list for an organ, while their chance to receive an organ is very small. However, we can change that by filling in a donor form. Tonight, we won't give away a kidney. Even we think that's wrong. And Lisa, or do I have to say Leonie, is an actress that is very healthy. Esther Claire, Vincent, and Charlotte are in on this conspiracy as well. However, they are not actors. These are 3 real kidney patients, and the story they've been telling is their own true story. So yeah, we got scammed. Instead of watching a cool game show where you could see someone win a kidney and a whole new life, we just see them raising awareness in the most effective and successful way ever imaginable. Okay, that's still pretty cool. And then the presenter sends a message to Parliament. I would like to talk with our members of Parliament. Last Tuesday, everyone was talking about this television show, that there would be something done to ban this show. Do something about the waiting list, and talk about it with the same comments and indignation as last Tuesday. And ask the minister and yourself, what do you think of a long waiting list for an organ? And I must say, that's perfect. Those who are in power only cared about the issue when it was set to destroy their personal reputation, which is something that having a super long and dangerous waiting list should already be doing. Like that should already be ruining your reputation. But even then, their initial response wasn't to try and fix and take care of the 4.5 year long waiting list. It was just to cover this show up, get rid of it and censor it so nobody sees it. When the show was only really just putting those patients who are going through all of this in a slightly different light. But they also show a bunch of clips of the government talking about the show, and then there's this conversation.
Heeft u zelf een donorcode zien? Nee, die heb ik niet. Maar toen ik dacht die vraag die gaat vastkomen. En ik bedacht net terwijl ik daar stond te praten, misschien moet ik. Maar dus deze week ga ik er eentje nemen. Dus het heeft wel zin? Het heeft zin gehad. In ieder geval eentje erbij.
So it fucking worked! It even worked on the people who were completely against it. Within a couple of hours of the show being aired, BNN received around 12,000 donor application requests. The next day it was 30,000, and 48 hours after the show it was up to 50,000. So pretty much immediate improvement. But there were still people who weren't very pleased about how they went about this, with the spokesman for the Dutch Health Ministry saying, "This is not the proper way to get more donations." Did it work though? Yes, and it's probably the only time where this would work. I don't think that you'd be able to replicate this. It caused a huge spike in donors and overall awareness, and I mean, we're still talking about it now, and we're still thinking a lot about kidney donation and stuff now, so it definitely worked. It was definitely a success. So I think the show did exactly what it set out to do, and that's great. And it only took 11 more years for the donor system to turn from an opt-in system to an opt-out system, which is much better in my opinion. But even that only passed with 38 votes for and 36 votes against, meaning that it was incredibly close for the best option to not exist. And I can't imagine that the Great Donor Show didn't have a helping hand in that, at least a little bit. And all of this was just thanks to one man's desire to entertain people. But yeah, that was the Great Donor Show. I just thought it was a really good story and shows how complacent we can get as long as an issue doesn't affect us personally. Like, as long as an issue isn't personally hitting you, there's just no reason to why you would think of it. People always need something big to shock them awake to certain issues, and this show did it very well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and it really does help out the channel. I've got plenty of other videos that I'm sure you'd enjoy as well. And if you do subscribe, then I will create my own show where I will donate my kidneys to whoever has the largest Bakugan collection. Have a great day.